After 10 years of marriage, my wife said, I'm going back to my ex and I'm taking half of everything. I smiled. The next day, her sister called me screaming, You can't do this to her. We'll sue you. Sup, Reddit. My wife dumped me for her ex at our anniversary dinner and announced she's getting half of everything. Should have asked what those 40 pages were before signing them back in 2018. Grab your popcorn and enjoy the shit show. Name's Garrett, 43 male. The whole thing started 17 years ago in a cubicle I hated. Funny how the worst office job of your life can end up saving you a couple $100,000 and your entire financial future. But I'm getting ahead of myself. Back in 2008, I was a fresh industrial equipment appraiser, working in a cramped Chicago office downtown. 23rd floor, windows that didn't open, fluorescent lights buzzing nonstop. My cubicle neighbor was Adam, mid-30s, divorced twice, now a forensic accountant who specialized in high-net-worth divorces. Adam handled cases where someone would build a seven-figure business from nothing, then lose half because they kept everything in joint accounts. Every case followed the same pattern. Successful guy, trusting guy, thinks separating assets feels unromantic. Then the marriage ends and romance doesn't matter. Only legal structure does. Most of them think being a good husband means trusting completely, Adam told me one. They don't realize there's a difference between trust and preparation until it's too late. By then, they're signing away businesses they built with their own hands. I listened. Took notes. I was 26 and single. Marriage seemed like something other people did. Then my brother Brandon got destroyed. Brandon was 12 years older, had his life together way before I did. Built a contracting business from one truck into a 15-person operation. Bought 3 rental properties over 10 years. Was renovating a beautiful craftsman house for him and his wife Rebecca. Rebecca was a middle school teacher. 15 years of marriage. 2 kids in college. Everything seemed solid until it wasn't. She left him for her Pilates instructor. The gut punch came when Brandon found out she'd been bringing the guy to the house he was renovating as an anniversary surprise. His security cameras caught everything. He took the footage to his lawyer thinking it would matter. It didn't. Illinois is no fault. The judge split everything 50-50. Half the business, half the rentals, half the retirement accounts. The unfinished house had to be sold, proceeds split. Brandon called me the day the settlement finalized. His voice sounded dead. Don't ever assume fairness, Garrett. The system rewards documentation. Preparation. I trusted completely. Documented nothing. And I paid for it with half my life's work. I drove to his place that night. He was in a rental apartment now, sitting at a card table. Rebecca had taken most of the furniture. She's already moved the guy into our old house. The kids haven't spoken to her, but legally there's nothing anyone can do. I'm the idiot who didn't protect myself. That image stuck with me. That night, Adam and I made a pact over terrible Chinese food. Called it the Never Again Protocol. If either of us got married, we'd help the other build real financial protection. Not prenups that judges throw out. Real protection. Layered, documented. Everything structured like a corporate merger. 5 years later, I met Valerie at a friend's barbecue in Wicker Park. Gorgeous brunette with green eyes, and this laugh that made everyone turn around. We talked for 4 hours straight. She was a graphic designer, funny and creative, and exactly my type. 6 months later, we were living together. A year after that, I proposed. I fell for her. The kind where you picture a whole life together. But every time I thought about the wedding, I'd remember Brandon at that card table. So while I was falling in love, I was also building protection. Adam helped me design it like corporate tax strategy. Limited liability entities. Clear documentation. Bank accounts structured to show access versus ownership. The wedding was beautiful. Valerie's parents flew in from Minnesota. My parents cried. And in the back of my mind, I thought about that fireproof safe where all the protection documents sat. Those documents were just paperwork, like smoke detectors. You hope you never need them. Then some red flags started showing about 2 years into our marriage. Nothing major at first, just small things. Phone always face down on the table. New passwords I didn't know. Late work meetings that never seemed to involve actual work when I asked about them. I noticed. Didn't say anything. Just watched and waited. There wasn't much that I worry about, but still I wanted to keep myself protected. That's when I activated phase 2 of the Never Again protocol. Called Adam, explained the situation, and we spent a weekend restructuring everything. Created the post-nup. Framed it as liability protection. Told Valerie I was worried about lawsuits from clients after a colleague got sued. Wanted to shield our family assets. She signed every single page while watching some reality show. Do we really need all this? Standard asset protection. Protects us both if anything happens with my work. She signed without reading. Called it my paranoid paperwork phase to her friends. That was in 2018. For the next 7 years, I kept everything documented. Valerie had access to use our money, but ownership remained separate. She never once asked why, never questioned where money came from or where it went, just kept using the debit card. Fast forward to our 10th anniversary this past spring. Made reservations at this place in River North where we'd had our third date. Same corner table. I'd bought Valerie the blue dress she was wearing specifically for this dinner. I thought maybe this would be a turning point. Maybe we'd reconnect. She'd been even more distant lately. But anniversary dinners are supposed to fix things, right? The restaurant looked the same. Our waiter recognized us, said something about it being romantic we'd come back. Valerie smiled but didn't engage. We ordered, made small talk about our daughter Ruby's finals, about whether we should replace the deck. Surface stuff. Then the appetizers came. Valerie took one bite, set down her fork. Then she looked at Garrett, I need to tell you something important. I paused. My first thought was maybe she's sick, or Ruby was in trouble. I'm going back to Troy, my ex from college. I don't think we should continue this marriage. The table next to us went quiet. Our waiter, halfway over with our entrees, turned around. She said it like she was ordering off a menu. I set down my fork, wiped my mouth, waited. You're a good husband, Garrett. You really are. But I feel like I'm getting bored with our life. And honestly, Troy has always been my true love. I should never have let him go. 10 years. Gone in 3 minutes. Then came the part that actually helped me. I never really loved you, Garrett. I just settled because Troy wasn't available back then. You were safe, stable, but that's not enough anymore. The couple at the next table went quiet, and I just sat there, processing that the person I'd built a life with was telling me none of it was real. Part of me wanted to yell, but I thought about Brandon at that card table, so I only said, "Then you should leave tonight." Her expression changed, confusion mixed with disappointment. She'd wanted me to fight, to promise I'd change, to give her the dramatic moment she could tell her friends about. What? You heard me. Pack your stuff tonight. I'll sleep in the guest room. I want you gone before I wake up tomorrow. You're not even going to fight for us? You just told me there was never an us, Valerie. So no, go be with your true love. I stood up, dropped $180 in cash on the table, and walked out. She sat there staring, looking lost. I drove home in silence, went straight to the guest room and started running through mental checklists. Account access, door locks, security codes. Everything Adam and I had set up for exactly this. An hour later, I heard her come home. She spent 3 hours packing, made dramatic calls to friends about her new freedom. I stayed in the guest room making my own calls. Adam first, then my lawyer Nathan, then the bank. Around midnight, I heard her dragging suitcases down the stairs. Heard her pause in the hallway, maybe waiting for me to stop her. I didn't. Then I heard her voice, smug. I guess I'll finally get half of everything. Hope you saved up, Garrett. I listened to her wheel the suitcases outside. Heard Troy's car pull up, heard them drive away. Then I came out and called Adam. It's done. She left. She actually said that at your anniversary dinner? Adam couldn't help laughing. She really doesn't know how you structured things. Not a clue. 10 years, never asked once. The post-nup we'd created was solid. We'd studied case law, looked at what worked and failed. Structured it like a corporate merger. Clean business language about asset protection and property classification. The key clause created separate property classifications. Anything earned after signature stayed separate unless explicitly combined in writing. My appraiser's salary flowed into a business entity that paid distributions to our household checking. What Valerie didn't know was that the business had 5 other accounts holding real assets. The house was refinanced in 2018 after the post-enup, deed in my name only. Bank accounts restructured in 2019, converted to individual with her as authorized user. Her BMW leased through my business. The joint checking had about 2,200. The next morning, my phone rang. Voicemail from her sister Angela. Garrett, Valerie deserves better. She deserves half of everything. Hope you're prepared to pay. Time to face consequences. I forwarded it to Nathan without responding. An hour later, another voicemail. I'm officially representing Valerie. Any attempts to hide marital assets will have serious legal consequences. I texted back, you might want to review the post-nuptial agreement before making threats. 3 dots. Then, what post-nuptial agreement? Valerie had never told her. The one your sister signed in 2018, filed with the county clerk. Public record. Any post-nup signed under duress can be challenged. Good luck proving duress on something she signed while watching TV. She stopped responding. But I knew Angela. She'd divorced her husband 3 years ago and taken his dental practice. Ever since, she'd been coaching Valerie on maximizing settlements. Angela didn't back down. She escalated. By Wednesday afternoon, Valerie went to our bank. The branch manager, Michael, brought them to his office with a thick file of documents Valerie had signed. Michael was professional, but thorough. Opened the folder and started laying out documents one by one. Mrs. Crawford, in 2019, you and your husband came in to restructure your banking relationship. These are your signatures on the account conversion forms. He pointed to each one. Valerie's handwriting unmistakable. Valerie stared at them. I don't remember signing these. These are notarized signature cards from 2019. Our banker Lisa was present. She's still here, remembers the meeting. Her notes indicate you declined a detailed explanation and said you trusted your husband to handle financial matters. The notary witnessed and certified each signature. Angela leaned forward. This is financial abuse. He manipulated her into signing away her rights. Michael didn't react. Just pulled out another document. Here's a customer satisfaction survey you filled out 3 months later. Your handwriting. You wrote, I appreciate how my husband handles all our boring financial decisions. He's much better at money stuff than I am. You even drew a smiley face next to your signature. Valerie's face went pale. But I was his wife. These accounts should be ours. Michael kept his voice level. The accounts were individually owned by Mr. Crawford. You were listed as an authorized user. That's a privilege, not ownership. The account holder can revoke that privilege at any time. What does that mean? It means you had permission to use the accounts. You never owned them. The moment Mr. Crawford revoked your authorized user status, your access ended. That's standard banking procedure. Angela started gathering documents. We'll be filing complaints with every banking regulator in Illinois. Michael offered her his business card. Feel free. I'll provide certified copies of everything for your complaint. We follow all state and federal regulations. Mrs. Crawford signed every document. We have notarized signature cards. We have her written acknowledgments. Everything here is completely legal. They left. Michael called me an hour later. She genuinely didn't know Garrett. 10 years and she never once asked what she was signing. She never wanted to know. That was the point. Still, watching someone realize they signed away their own leverage? That's rough. Not as rough as finding out your wife never loved you. At least I got documentation. Michael went quiet. Fair point. And that's when Angela really got to work. Thursday morning, I got served at my office. Process server handed me a manila envelope thick enough to be a phone book. Emergency petition for exclusive possession of the marital residence, temporary support, and a temporary restraining order freezing all assets. Angela had gone nuclear. The petition was 32 pages of accusations. Called me a financial predator who'd systematically isolated Valerie from marital assets. Claimed I'd coerced her into signing documents she didn't understand. Alleged I'd retaliated by closing accounts and cutting off her access immediately after separation. Some of it was fiction. Some of it was uncomfortable truth framed badly. Nathan called immediately. She's filing everything at once. Claims you're hiding assets, controlling behavior, financial abuse. She wants you out of the house by Friday and temporary spousal support of $4,200 a month while the case proceeds. Can she do that? She can file it. Whether a judge grants it is different. But she's smart about this. She's not alleging violence or anything criminal, just financial misconduct. That's harder to disprove immediately. Emergency hearing is tomorrow at 2. Tomorrow? How is that even legal? She claimed emergency circumstances. Said you're liquidating assets and Valerie has no access to funds. Got an emergency slot. I spent Thursday night preparing. Printed every document. Every bank statement showing the post-nup execution. Every piece of evidence showing Valerie had signed voluntarily. Adam came over at 10 p.m. with coffee and energy drinks. We built a timeline. It looks reactive, Adam said. That's the problem. It was reactive. She left. But Angela is going to say you cut her off to punish her for leaving. So what do we do? Show the pattern. Show that Valerie had access the entire time. Show that you only secured accounts after she maxed out the credit card and threatened to get half of everything. We worked until 3 a.m. building the defense. Friday at 2, we stood in Judge Morrison's courtroom. Valerie sat at Angela's table. She wouldn't make eye contact. Angela started strong, painting me as controlling. She had declarations from Valerie's friends about how I handled everything. She spun the post-nup as evidence of control rather than protection. Your Honor, Mr. Crawford isolated my client from finances. Made her sign 40 pages while watching television. No lawyer. No explanation. Created a structure where she had no independent access. She pulled out bank statements. Then in 2019, he restructures all accounts. Again, my client signs without understanding. The bank manager testifies she was joking about paperwork. That's not informed consent. That's someone who trusts her husband and doesn't realize she's signing away her security. Angela paced. And the moment my client exercises her right to leave, Mr. Crawford retaliates, closes accounts, changes locks, cuts off all access. She had to move in with family because she has no resources. This is textbook financial abuse, Nathan countered. The post-nup with notary. Banker notes from the 2019 account restructuring showing Valerie declined explanation. That customer survey praising my management. Screenshots showing Valerie posted about Troy hours before our anniversary. He pulled out the credit card statement. Mr. Crawford didn't retaliate. He protected himself after she maxed out their joint credit, $9,500 in 2 days, and threatened to get half of everything. The judge listened, flipping through exhibits. Mr. Foster, your client did structure everything quite comprehensively. Why was Mrs. Crawford only given access to a household account? Because that's what the post-nuptial specified. An agreement Mrs. Crawford signed after full disclosure. Full disclosure? Ms. Chen, did your client have independent counsel? Angela jumped. No. She was told it was routine asset protection. She had no idea she was signing away marital rights. No independent lawyer advised her. Your Honor, Nathan tried. Mrs. Crawford was given every opportunity to... The judge held up a hand. I've heard enough for today. This isn't a final determination hearing, but I'm troubled by several things. She looked at both lawyers. I'm not making final rulings today, but given the circumstances and the need to maintain status quo, I'm granting temporary exclusive possession to Mrs. Crawford for 30 days, or until our next status hearing, whichever comes first. Mr. Crawford, you'll need to vacate by Sunday evening at 8 p.m. I felt my stomach drop. I'm also issuing a restraining order on dissipation of assets. Mr. Crawford, you're specifically restrained from closing or moving funds from any jointly titled accounts. Mrs. Crawford, same applies to you. No unusual expenditures, no asset transfers. The household checking account remains accessible to both parties for ordinary expenses only. Temporary support hearing is scheduled for 2 weeks from today. Both parties will exchange financial declarations before that hearing. The judge closed the file. And, Ms. Chen, I'm granting this emergency relief because your client needs temporary stability. But if I find out you've overstated the circumstances or filed this in bad faith, there will be consequences. Understood? Yes, Your Honor. As we left the courtroom, Angela smirked at me in the hallway. This is just the beginning, Garrett. Hope you've got a good hotel. Maybe next time you'll think twice before manipulating someone into signing their rights away. Nathan grabbed my arm before I could respond. Not here. Let's go. In the elevator down, he said quietly, we took a hit, but it's temporary. We need to find their weakness before the next hearing. I spent the next month in a Hampton Inn near the office, going through every document with Adam and Nathan. We needed to understand how Angela had landed that first punch. The independent counsel issue is real, Nathan said Tuesday morning in his conference room. Post-nups without separate lawyers get scrutinized. Angela knows that. But Valerie signed it. She had the chance to get a lawyer. Did you explicitly tell her to get one? I thought back to 2018. I'd explained it was asset protection paperwork. Told her she should read it or have someone look at it. But I'd been there, explaining it myself. I told her it was standard asset protection, that she should read it if she wanted. But I didn't insist. And I was there when she signed. That's what Angela is hammering. You're an industrial equipment appraiser. She's a designer. That creates constructive fraud in some cases. Adam was going through bank records when he stopped scrolling. Garrett, what account paid the mortgage every month? The household checking. Auto pay. Why? Show me the routing. I pulled it up. Every month since 2018, the mortgage came from account 4738, the joint household checking. Both our names. Funded by my business, but technically joint property. Adam and Nathan exchanged a look. That's commingling, Nathan said quietly. Classic commingling. What? Nathan pulled up Illinois statute. When separate property is paid down using marital funds, the non-owning spouse acquires an equitable interest proportional to contribution. But it was my money funding that account. Doesn't matter legally. Once your distributions hit that joint account, they became marital property. You use jointly owned funds to pay separate property debt. That's textbook commingling. Angela will argue Valerie has a claim to house equity. How bad? Let's math it out, Nathan calculated. House worth $385,000 now. You've built about $110,000 in equity since 2018. If a judge finds commingling, Valerie could get 20 to 40%. That's 22 to 44,000. We kept digging. Found the joint credit card. Shut down after Valerie left, but not before she'd maxed it out. 9,502 days. Both names on it, both liable. Then the timing of closing the joint checking, the day after Valerie left. Nathan explained, if this was proper structure, why wait until after separation? Looks retaliatory. By Thursday, we'd found enough holes to make me sick. The post-nup was solid in theory. Execution had problems. And family law judges don't like seeing one spouse cut off while the other maintains control. The temporary support hearing was brutal. Angela came with Valerie's expenses. Groceries, gas, phone, insurance, everything. Argued Valerie had been accustomed to a lifestyle, and I'd cut her off completely. Your Honor, Mr. Crawford has isolated my client financially. She has no access, no credit, no ability to support herself. The judge awarded temporary support, $1,350 a month. Not the $4,200 Angela wanted, but still $1,350 while this dragged out. Then Angela filed discovery. Every bank statement, every business record, every transaction for 7 years, looking for more commingling, and she found it. The 2020 kitchen renovation, $22,000 from joint checking, 2021 deck replacement, 2022 bathroom remodel, all paid from joint funds, all improvements to my separate property. Angela amended her petition claiming Valerie deserved reimbursement for contributions to the house. Nathan did the math. If a judge buys this, Valerie could get $32,000 to $58,000 in reimbursement, plus equity percentage, plus fees if they find bad faith commingling. This wasn't how it was supposed to go. I'd planned everything, but I'd made mistakes. Used joint money for separate property. Closed accounts after separation instead of before. Never insisted Valerie get independent counsel. And Angela was making me pay for every single one. While Angela was dismantling my financial structure in court, Troy was having his own problems. I had been doing reconnaissance, found Troy's social media, his gym check-ins, his whole curated life. Troy worked as a wellness coach at Equinox, personal trainer who overcharged divorced women. Adam's research showed 2 previous relationships with married clients that ended badly when divorces got messy. I also found Troy was seeing other women. His Hinge profile, wellness professional seeking authentic connection, posted 3 days after Valerie moved in with him. But the real problem for Troy started when Nathan's firm sent him a preservation letter and notice of deposition. The letter explained he'd be deposed as a third-party witness, timeline issues, discussions about finances, the whole affair documented under oath. His communications with Valerie could be subject to discovery. Troy got it at work. He panicked, called Valerie. She told him it was intimidation and that he has to ignore it. 2 weeks later, the deposition notice arrived. Got served at work. Troy read it in his car and called Valerie. I got served at work. They want me to answer questions under oath about when we started, about your marriage. Just tell the truth. The truth makes me look like I broke up a marriage. And they want my texts with Valerie. All of them could get read in a deposition. I'm not losing my job over someone else's divorce. He started pulling back, stopped answering calls, made excuses. I checked his Instagram. He was at a Blackhawks game with another woman, tagged as his date. Valerie saw it, called him. No answer. She drove to Equinox. Manager asked her to leave. When she wouldn't, security came, gave her a written trespass warning. Troy watched from behind the desk, wouldn't make eye contact. She called from her car. He blocked her number. She drove to his apartment. He didn't answer. He didn't love her. He'd liked the attention, the affair, the chase, but the moment it turned real, the moment she actually left and legal problems appeared, he was gone. She was spiraling. She'd blown up her 10-year marriage for a guy who'd bailed the second things got legally complicated. And now she was living in Angela's basement, fighting for temporary support while I was positioned to keep most of my assets despite the commingling issues. Troy hadn't been some mastermind. The real architect of this disaster was Angela. She'd convinced Valerie she could have it all, leave for the other guy, get a huge settlement, start fresh. Instead, Valerie lost Troy, lost her daughter, and was facing a settlement fight where her own sister's tactics were backfiring. Discovery in a divorce case is like trench warfare. Slow and expensive. But before we got deep into document warfare, Ruby called. She's a senior at Northwestern, finance major, sharp as they come. Dad, Mom just called me crying for like an hour. She says you stole everything and spent years planning to destroy her. Is any of that true? Ruby Remember that Dropbox folder I shared with you when you turned 18? The one labeled Family Financial Structure? The one you said I should read before I graduate? Open it now. I'll wait. I heard clicking, then silence as she scrolled through documents. The post-nup, the account structures, the timeline showing when Valerie signed what. Dad, Mom signed all of this? Yes. Everything that's happening now was triggered by her choice to leave, not by me hiding anything. Silence. Then, did you know about Troy? I suspected. Check your mom's Instagram. Scroll back to the day before our anniversary. More silence. Typing. Then a sharp intake of breath. She posted a photo with him at 3 p.m. that day. Yeah. Ruby went quiet. Then her voice changed. I'm going to find out exactly what she did. She spent the next 3 hours doing what I'd taught her, following the money. First, the Venmo trail. Valerie's public feed going back 8 months. Troy sending money regularly. Started with dinners and coffee in September. Escalated to $95, weekend essentials, by January. Then social media. Relationship status changed from married to nothing in February. Photos with me untagged. Cryptic quotes about choosing yourself. But the real evidence came when Ruby asked Valerie for her phone password, said she needed emergency contacts for school. Valerie gave it immediately. Dad, texts between Mom and Aunt Angela going back to August. Read them. August 15th, 2024. Angela, don't do anything until after your anniversary. Spontaneous separations look better. Mom, good thinking. Plus Garrett's bonus comes through in September. December 3rd. Mom to Angela. Practice the speech in the mirror today. Think I can cry on cue? January 8th. Mom to Troy. Angela says wait until after the anniversary for legitimacy. Ruby changed her emergency contacts that night. Removed Valerie from her university access. Blocked her number. She sent me everything she screenshotted with one message. Built a timeline. She had been planning this for so long. I forwarded it all to Nathan. He called 20 minutes later. This timeline is helpful. I'll incorporate it into our response. That evidence became crucial as we entered the discovery phase. Angela requested everything. Nathan pushed back on half of it as overbroad, but judges in Cook County tend to allow wide discovery in marital cases. So I spent weeks producing documents. Angela combed through everything looking for more mistakes. She found some. A joint savings account I'd forgotten about, $3,200 in it. Became marital property, a stock purchase from 2019 that I'd made from the joint checking before transferring to my brokerage. Angela argued it was marital property because of the source funds, but she also made mistakes. 3 weeks into discovery, Angela filed a motion claiming I'd hidden a business account from the initial disclosures. Filed it as an emergency motion, complete with accusations of fraud and perjury. The problem was, the account she claimed I'd hidden? I'd disclosed it. Page 7 of my initial financial declaration. Account number, balance, everything. Nathan filed a response with a highlighted copy of my original disclosure. Then he requested sanctions. Hearing day. Angela tried to backtrack, claimed it was an honest mistake, that she'd been reviewing hundreds of documents. The judge wasn't having it. You filed an emergency motion alleging fraud. You used words like perjury and concealment. Did you check the respondent's initial disclosures before making those accusations? Your Honor, I reviewed the documents available to me. That's not what I asked. Silence. I'm sanctioning you $750 for filing a frivolous motion. Additionally, you'll pay Mr. Crawford's attorney fees for responding to this motion. Mr. Foster will submit a fee petition. Angela's face went red. If I see another motion like this, the sanctions will be more severe. We're done here. Nathan and I walked out. In the hallway, Angela was on her phone with Valerie, voice tight with anger. Nathan just smiled. She's going to be more careful now, but she's also rattled. The sanction order came through 2 days later. Angela owed me $1,200 in fees, plus the $750 fine to the court. Small victory, but I'll take it. But Angela kept digging. She deposed Adam thinking she'd get him to admit I'd coerced Valerie. Instead, Adam calmly explained he'd witnessed Valerie signing documents while laughing about my paranoia. Made Angela look desperate. Then Angela deposed me. 6 hours in Nathan's conference room. Court reporter typing every word. She tried to make me look controlling. Isn't it true you never discussed financial matters with your wife? I discussed them whenever she wanted. She wasn't interested. You made all financial decisions unilaterally, within the structure we both agreed to. She tried to trip me up on commingling. Asked why I'd use joint funds for the house if everything was supposed to be separate. It was an oversight. The mortgage auto-paid from that account. Should have changed it after the post-nup. An oversight that lasted 7 years and benefited you at my client's expense. An oversight that gives your client a legitimate equity claim, which I'm willing to discuss in settlement. Meanwhile, Angela's aggressive tactics were backfiring with the judge. She'd filed 3 emergency motions in 2 months, all denied. She'd accused me of hiding assets in discovery without evidence. Got sanctioned with a $750 fine for frivolous claims. She'd tried to get the case expedited for urgent need. The judge said no. It proceeds on normal timeline. She'd told Valerie this would be a big settlement. She couldn't admit the case wasn't as strong as she'd thought. By month 4, Nathan and I discussed settlement. The commingling was real. A judge would award Valerie something. Best case, Nathan said. The judge awards reimbursement for mortgage and improvements, probably $45,000 plus her fees. Worst case, they find extensive commingling and award 20% of house equity. That's another $77,000 on top. Angela is racking up bills Valerie will argue you should pay. Yeah, what about retirement, business accounts, investments? Those hold. No commingling evidence. Post-nup is clear. We offered $58,000 for equity claims, plus $13,000 toward her fees. She keeps her car and personal items. I keep everything else. Angela rejected it. My client deserves far more. We're going to trial. But she wasn't. 2 weeks later, Angela filed a motion to withdraw as counsel. The official reason was irreconcilable differences with client regarding case strategy. The real reason came out later. Valerie couldn't pay her anymore. Angela had been working partially on contingency, expecting a big settlement. When the settlement offers stayed modest, Angela wanted out. Valerie had to hire a new lawyer. Got a guy named Rick, who took one look at the file and said, "We should probably settle." 3 months later, we did. Valerie got $68,000 for her equity claims and improvements. I paid $19,000 of her attorney fees. She kept her car, her personal belongings, and the $9,500 she'd maxed out on the joint credit card. I kept the house, the business, the retirement accounts, the investment accounts, everything else. Total cost to me, including attorney fees and temporary support paid during proceedings, just under $140,000. Not the clean win I'd planned, but not the disaster it could have been. The settlement finalized in September. By November, Valerie's money was gone. She'd paid Angela's remaining bills, paid her new lawyer, put a deposit down on an apartment she couldn't afford long-term, bought furniture, paid off credit cards, helped Troy with his rent before he ghosted her, treated her friends to dinners bragging about her settlement. By New Year's, she was broke again and working part-time at a real estate office doing open houses. Angela's law practice never recovered. Word got around the family law community that she'd overpromised to a client, botched basic strategy, and got sanctioned by a judge. She lost 3 clients in the month after withdrawing from Valerie's case. Her ex-husband, the dentist she'd divorced and taken the practice from, filed for modification of support based on her decreased income. Karma's funny like that. I'd spent months documenting everything. When the settlement was final, I compiled it into a folder. 60 pages of screenshots, bank records, text messages between Valerie and Angela discussing strategy. I didn't post it publicly. I shared it with exactly 4 people. Ruby, my parents, and Valerie's father. Ruby already knew most of it. She'd cut Valerie off completely. But seeing it all laid out hardened her resolve. She changed her last name to mine legally, stopped listing Valerie as her parent on any forms. My parents had suspected something was off, but seeing the evidence ended any guilt they felt about taking sides. They'd been planning to split holiday time between us. After seeing the folder, they told Valerie not to come to family events. Valerie's father was devastated. He called me. "Garrett, I'm sorry. I didn't know. She's not welcome at the house until she gets her life together." And Angela? Angela should have known better. She encouraged this. That isolation broke Valerie faster than the money running out. She'd expected family support. Instead, everyone who saw the evidence realized she'd gambled on a bigger settlement and lost. She tried to rebuild her reputation, posted vague things on Facebook about healing from narcissistic abuse and finding yourself after manipulation. But her friends had seen too much. The comments on her posts got brutal. Maybe focus on healing your relationship with your daughter. Funny how the abuse claims came right after you left for another man. Hope it was worth it. She deleted her social media. Last I heard, she's sharing an apartment with 2 roommates in Logan Square, working full-time at the real estate office now, no longer just doing open houses. She reached out to Ruby for her birthday. Ruby didn't respond. Angela is trying to rebuild her practice. She's mostly doing uncontested divorces now, the kind where people file jointly and split things amicably. Not exactly the high-stakes litigation she built her reputation on. Troy's still at Equinox, still dating clients, still posting inspirational quotes on Instagram. Last I saw, he had a new wellness coaching client who looks remarkably like Valerie did 7 years ago. Some people never learn. As for me, I sold the house last year. Too many memories, and I'd gotten the equity value I deserved after accounting for Valerie's reimbursement. Bought a place in Lincoln Park. Ruby graduates in May. She's already got a job lined up at a Big Four accounting firm. Says she wants to specialize in forensic accounting. Ruby's graduation is in May. I'm flying her grandparents in from Minnesota. My parents are driving down. We're taking her to Alinea after the ceremony. She didn't invite her mother. Then this happened. Last Tuesday, Ruby called me from an unknown number. Said her phone died, she was borrowing a friend's. Sounded off. Dad, I need to tell you something. Mom's been showing up at my apartment. My hand tightened on the phone. How many times? 4 times this month. Just standing outside, just watching. Building management told me they can't do anything unless she tries to come inside or makes threats. You need to file for a restraining order. I know. I already talked to Nathan. He's drafting the petition now. She paused. But Dad, there's something else. Last night she left an envelope under my door. What was in it? Ruby's voice went flat. Copies of our old family photos, from when I was little. And a note that said, Angela says we have options. This isn't over. I sat there in my condo, looking out at the city lights, phone pressed to my ear. Valerie was broke. Angela was barely practicing. They had no case, no leverage, no legal path forward. The settlement was final. Everything was done. But that note wasn't about the divorce. That was about Ruby's trust fund, the one her grandmother left her, the one that vests when she turns 25. And Valerie just hired Angela again. Too bad for them. Ruby's grandmother knew exactly who her daughter-in-law was. That trust has an independent trustee, airtight terms, and 0 parental access clauses. Adam helped draft it 6 years ago. Some people never learn, and some of us never stop preparing. Guys, we are so close to hit 100,000 subscribers on this channel. If you are not subscribed to the channel, please consider subscribing. It really helps hit that 100,000 mark. Thanks for making this dream come true. After 9 years of sacrifice, raising 2 kids that weren't mine, they sat me down and said I owed their real dad an apology for replacing him. I didn't argue. I just cut off everything, packed their things, and gave them exactly what they asked for. Hey, Reddit. All right, so I'm not one of those guys who usually post online, but honestly, after what went down in my life, I think I earned the right to tell this one. I, Jason, 41 male, now, and for a solid 9 years, I lived under this illusion that I'd built a family from scratch. Turns out, I was basically just the mechanic holding together someone else's wrecked car. When I met my wife, Laura, she already had 2 kids. Jake was 9, Lana was 6. I remember the first time I met them like it was yesterday. Jake gave me this, "Who the hell are you?" look that only 9-year-olds can pull off, and Lana just kind of hid behind her mom, clutching a stuffed bunny like I was some weirdo. I didn't blame them. Their real dad, John, was still floating around somewhere, showing up whenever he remembered he had kids. Laura told me he was trying to be better. Translation, he called twice a year and sent shoes he probably couldn't afford. The man had all the commitment of a Wi-Fi signal in a tunnel. Still, I stepped in. Nobody forced me. I knew what I was signing up for. I told myself I wasn't just marrying Laura. I was marrying into the whole situation. I wanted stability, structure, something real. She was fun, smart, good-looking, and the kids, well, they needed a dad, whether they admitted it or not. The early days were awkward. Every move I made felt like walking on eggshells. Jake tested boundaries constantly, back-talking, ignoring chores, the usual "you're not my dad" attitude. Lana was easier. She'd draw me pictures and leave them on my desk, little stick figures of us holding hands. But Jake? Man, that kid was a challenge. There was this one dinner where Laura tried to get everyone to say grace, and Jake mumbled, "Why do we gotta do this?" Dad never made us. The look Laura gave me could have melted steel. I just smiled and said, "Well, maybe that's why I'm here, to upgrade the software." And he didn't get it, but Laura cracked up. That was my thing. Handle chaos with sarcasm and keep my cool. And you know what? Eventually, it worked. I wasn't their father by blood, but I earned that title by consistency. I was the guy who showed up, the one who made sure their science projects didn't look like they were built by raccoons, the guy who sat in the bleachers during soccer games while John was probably out finding himself again. I paid for school supplies, food, doctor visits, birthdays, vacations, basically everything. Laura worked, but I carried the heavier load. Didn't complain. That's what men do, right? Handle it. I wanted those kids to have the kind of life that didn't feel like a broken home. We weren't filthy rich or anything, but we had structure. Dinner together every night, movie nights on Fridays, small road trips during summer breaks, and slowly, things started to feel right. Jake started warming up. I'd catch him asking me for advice or tagging along when I went to the hardware store. There was a moment I'll never forget. It was his first soccer tournament after I started coaching his team part-time. He scored his first goal, turned around, pointed right at me in the stands, and yelled, "That's my dad!" I swear if someone had told me to run into traffic right then, I would have done it smiling. That one sentence made every late-night shift and every "you're not my dad" argument worth it. John, though? That guy was like a ghost that occasionally left footprints. He'd call maybe twice a year, promising to visit soon, then vanish again. No child support, no effort. But whenever he did pop in, he'd act like some kind of celebrity. The kids would run to him because, well, he came bearing gifts and empty promises. Laura tried to pretend she was over him, but I could tell his shadow still lingered. She once said, "He's not a bad person, just irresponsible." I said, "Yeah, and I'm not broke, I just hate money." She laughed, but we both knew she was defending someone who deserved zero defense. Looking back, all the signs were there. Laura's occasional "John still deserves to see them" talks. Jake sometimes asking weird questions about what would happen if something happened to you. I just brushed it off. I figured they were curious. Kids ask dumb stuff all the time. I didn't know then that the man who disappeared for years would crawl back out of nowhere later, and that I'd be the one left cleaning up his mess all over again. But at that time, I was proud. I looked at my life and thought, yeah, I did good. The thing about kids, they didn't care about money as long as you showed up. And I showed up every damn time. One night, Laura and I got into this small argument. Nothing major, just the usual couple nonsense. She thought I was being too strict with Jake about curfews. He wanted to stay over at a friend's place for the weekend, and I wasn't fully sold on the idea because, well, I actually met the kid's parents once, and they gave off serious, "We let our 13-year-old vape in the basement" vibes. Laura rolled her eyes and said, "He's growing up, Jason. You can't bubble wrap him forever." I laughed. I'm not bubble wrapping him. I'm just making sure he doesn't end up in a YouTube prank video titled "Teen Loses Eyebrow in Backyard Explosion." She tried to stay mad, but I could see her trying not to laugh. We went back and forth for a few minutes, me being the practical one, her being the emotional one, until Jake, who apparently had been eavesdropping from the hallway, walked in and said, "Mom, he's right. He's just trying to help." Laura blinked. "You were listening?" "Yeah," he said, shrugging like it was no big deal. "He's stricter, but he's never wrong about stuff." Laura stared at him for a second, then sighed and said, "Fine, you win," before walking off to put Lana to bed. Jake looked at me and grinned. "You are kinda strict, though." "Yeah, and you're still alive, so you're welcome," I said, tossing him a wink. That was one of those weirdly proud moments. Not the big flashy kind, just that quiet realization that maybe, finally, I wasn't the outsider in my own house. That kid stood up for me when he didn't have to. That meant something. A few months later came the call that nearly made my heart stop. I was at work when the school phoned. Jake had been in a fight. They said fight, but when I got there, it looked more like a one-sided beating. His backpack was torn, lip busted, shirt dirty. He tried to act like it wasn't a big deal, but I could see his hands shaking. The principal started with the whole "we're still gathering information" speech. I cut him off. "You had cameras in the hallway, right? Maybe check those before pretending it's a mystery." He blinked. "Mr. Reeves, Don't Mr. Reeves me. My kid's bleeding. Maybe focus on the part where that shouldn't happen at school." He didn't like that, but I didn't care. I didn't raise my voice, didn't curse, just gave him that look that says, "You're wasting my time." I'd learned early in life that quiet confidence rattles people more than shouting ever will. After the meeting, I drove Jake home. He was quiet the whole ride, staring out the window. Halfway there, I said, "You want to talk about it, or should I start guessing?" He shrugged. "They said stuff. About me, about Mom." "What kind of stuff?" "That I didn't have a real dad. That you're just my mom's husband." I gripped the steering wheel a little tighter. You know what? Screw them. A real dad's not the guy who makes a baby. It's the one who shows up and sticks around. You don't need to explain your family to people who can barely spell it. He laughed a little. "You're so weird sometimes." "Yeah, well, weird keeps you alive." That night, I checked on him before bed. He was sitting at his desk, doodling on some notebook. When he saw me, he said quietly, "You're my only dad, you know that?" It wasn't some teary movie moment. No dramatic music, no hugs, just him saying it like it was a fact. But damn, it hit. I played it cool, told him, "Don't get sentimental, kid. You're gonna ruin my reputation." He laughed, but I caught the look in his eyes. The kind that says, "I mean it." After that, something changed between us. He started coming to me for advice about school, friends, even dumb stuff like what sneakers to buy. We'd watch sports together, argue about teams, trash talk each other like best friends. It felt real. Laura saw it too. That night after dinner, she said, "Thanks for handling everything today." I kind of froze up when the school called. She smiled, soft this time, genuine. "You're good for him, Jason." For both of them. And for once, I believed her. For that brief stretch of time, everything was perfect. I thought we'd made it through the hard part, that the foundation I'd built was solid. That night, hearing Jake call me his dad, I thought I'd made it. Thought I was part of something permanent. I didn't know that loyalty can disappear faster than trust funds. Life was running smooth for a while. The kids were doing well, Laura seemed content, and I was convinced we were finally past all the rough edges. You know that feeling when things are so normal it's almost suspicious? Yeah, that's where I was. Then, out of nowhere, he came back after 9 years. John, the ghost of bad decisions past, the guy who vanished like a magician whenever responsibility knocked. It was a random Sunday afternoon. I was fixing the gutter outside when I saw a shiny black car pull up in front of the house. Out steps Mr. Vanishing Act himself. Nice haircut, expensive jacket, fake smile plastered on like he practiced it in the mirror. He looked like one of those guys who buy designer belts but forget to pay child support. Laura froze when she saw him through the window. She muttered, "Oh my God," under her breath. I remember that exact tone. Not fear, not happiness, just guilt. Like someone who found an old photo they swore they'd thrown out. Before I could even say a word, Lana came running to the door yelling, "Dad!" And man, hearing that word from her mouth hit harder than a truck. John smiled at her, arms open, acting like he'd been there all along. "Hey, sweetheart. Wow, look at you. You've grown so much." Of course she had genius. That's what happens when you disappear for years. Jake came next, slower, more hesitant. But when John handed him a pair of fresh sneakers, the hesitation vanished real quick. He smiled. My kid, smiling at him. Laura opened the door wider and gave this awkward half smile. "John, what are you doing here?" He shrugged like it was no big deal. "Just passing through, figured I'd stop by, see how everyone's doing. Thought it was time I stepped up a little." I stood behind Laura, wiping my hands on a towel, not saying anything. My silence wasn't because I was scared or jealous. It was because I knew guys like him. The type who show up when the hard work's done and pretend they built the place. He turned to me and gave me that handshake that's half grip, half challenge. "Jason, right? Good to see you, man." "Is it?" I said, keeping my tone casual. "You've missed about 9 years of family events? Busy schedule?" Laura shot me a look. The one that says please don't start. So I didn't. Not yet. He stayed about an hour, long enough to drop off gifts that screamed compensation, not love. New shoes for Jake, a dupe designer bag for Lana, and a half-hearted apology for Laura. Then he left, promising to call soon. And he did. He started showing up every weekend after that. Always with something flashy, tickets to amusement parks, gaming consoles, sneakers that cost more than my car insurance. He'd pull up honking, the kids would run out like he was Santa, and I'd just stand at the door watching the scene play out. They'd come back Sunday night smelling like fast food, bragging about laser tag, arcades, bowling, all the fun things I didn't have the time or the spare cash for every weekend. "John took us to a steakhouse," Jake said once mid-dinner. "He said I should try something other than your plain chicken." "Cool," I said, keeping my face neutral. "Hope he taught you how to pay for it, too." Laura gave me the please don't ruin the vibe look again. I gave her the then, maybe stop defending this clown look back. She sighed. "He's trying to make up for lost time, Jason. You can't hold that against him." "Making up for lost time is fine," I said. "Just weird that he's only showing up when everything's already built. I do all the maintenance, he takes the victory lap." She rubbed her forehead. "Please, not in front of the kids. I wasn't trying to start a war. I just didn't like watching a guy who barely existed suddenly play hero in my house." The worst part was, John didn't even hide his nosiness. He started asking me weirdly specific questions, like about the house, my job, the mortgage, the insurance. "So, Jason," he said one Sunday, sipping coffee at the kitchen table like he owned the place. "Must be nice having your own home. You pay it off yet?" "Still working on it." I said, not looking up from my laptop. Yeah, big responsibility. You got life insurance and stuff? I glanced at him. Why? You planning to take out a policy on me? He laughed too hard. The kind of laugh people do when they get caught being too curious. Nah, man, just talking. I've been thinking about getting one myself. Sure you have, champ. I brushed it off, but something felt off. You ever get that gut feeling that someone's not just asking questions? They're collecting information? That's the vibe. Weeks went by, and his pattern stayed the same. Fun weekends, fake charm, bragging about how he's turning things around. The kids started parroting his lines. Lana once said, "Dad says money isn't everything, but he still paid for my nail and hair." Yeah, kid, money's not everything, unless you use it to buy your way into someone's heart. Jake, though, was the one that really hit me. I overheard him one day on a call with his friend, talking in that casual teenage tone like he was just updating someone on life. My real dad's back now, he said. He's doing great, owns a business, has a nice car. Mom says he's finally going to take care of us. He paused for a second, then added, laughing, "Yeah, our real dad's rich. He's going to take care of us later." I stood in the hallway, hearing every word. My jaw didn't clench, my eyes didn't tear up. I just stood there, frozen, because that's when it clicked. All the work, all the sacrifices, all those late nights I spent trying to give them a better life. It only took a few shiny gifts and fake promises for it to fade. Loyalty, I learned that day, doesn't just disappear. It gets bought, one expensive sneaker at a time. John wasn't just back, he was everywhere. The guy went from ghosting his kids for almost a decade to suddenly acting like father of the year. He started posting pictures online with captions like, "Nothing more important than family time," conveniently leaving out the part where family time meant showing up after I'd already done all the heavy lifting. What really pissed me off wasn't that he was back. It was how quickly everyone adjusted to it. Laura started saying things like, "You should be grateful they have both fathers now." Both fathers. Like this was some co-parenting fairy tale instead of a man strolling into a life I built and putting his name on the mailbox. The kids started changing too. Jake used to tell me about his day, about school, about girls. All of it. Now, everything was dad this and dad that. John took him shopping. John got him a new watch. John said he could help him get into college. Lana was no better. She started calling me Jason again. Not Dad, just Jason. And every time she said it, it felt like someone erased another year of my life with them. One night, I came home from work and found them all in the living room. Laura, Jake, Lana, sitting on the couch like they'd been waiting for me. The TV was off. That's never a good sign. Laura said, "We need to talk." My first thought was, okay, what did John screw up this time? But then I saw their faces. Not angry, not sad, cold, like I was some stranger who wandered into their house. Jake started it, voice steady but rehearsed. "We've been thinking about stuff, about how things have been all these years." "Stuff like what?" I asked, crossing my arms. He looked right at me. "You took advantage of us." I laughed. I couldn't help it. "What?" Lana chimed in, serious as a judge. "When we were little, we didn't have a dad, and you made us depend on you. You acted like we had to love you because we didn't have anyone else." Laura didn't say a word, just sat there staring at the floor. Jake kept going. "You made us feel like we owed you something, like you were some hero. But you're not. You just wanted to play dad because it made you feel important." I swear for a second I thought this was some kind of prank. I actually looked around expecting cameras to pop out. "You think I wanted to take over?" I said, trying not to lose it. "You think I worked double shifts and coached soccer for the ego boost? You're welcome, by the way, for every birthday, every doctor visit, every time your real father didn't show." Jake snapped back. "Stop calling him that. He is our real father. We're from his blood." Lana nodded. "Yeah, you were just filling in until he came back." That one hit different. Filling in. Like I was a damn temp worker in my own home. Laura finally spoke, barely above a whisper. "They're just trying to express how they feel." "Express how they feel?" I said, staring at her. "They just accused me of emotionally manipulating them. You're really going to sit there and let that slide?" She didn't answer. Didn't even look up. Jake leaned forward, voice shaking but firm. "You owe Dad an apology for trying to take his place." "An apology," I repeated slowly, like I was testing the word. "Yeah," Lana added. "You made us call you Dad when we already had one." I laughed again. Not the funny kind, the kind that happens when your brain refuses to process stupidity. "Right. So let me get this straight. I feed you, clothe you, pay for school, fix every mess, and now I'm supposed to say sorry to the guy who left you?" Jake's jaw tightened. He didn't leave us. He was struggling. You just took advantage while he wasn't around. That was it. The words I'd never imagined hearing. Took advantage. For years, I killed myself trying to make their lives stable. Missed promotions, canceled trips, drained my savings, all so they'd never feel abandoned again. And now, in their heads, I was the villain who preyed on their weakness. I looked at Laura, hoping for something. Even a small sign she disagreed, but she just stared at her hands. No defense, no correction, nothing. That silence broke something in me. You can argue with lies, you can fight back against insults, but silence? Silence means they've already decided what you are. I stood up, calm, controlled. Years of frustration burning quietly in my chest. All right, I said. Jake frowned. All right, what? All right, I repeated, nodding slightly. You want me to apologize? Fine. They all looked surprised, maybe even relieved, like they thought they'd won something. But what they didn't know was that all right wasn't surrender. It was the sound of a man making peace with walking away. I looked at Laura one last time. You know, I used to think family meant sticking it out no matter what. Turns out it just means knowing when you're not needed anymore. Lana looked confused. So, are you sorry or not? I smiled. You'll find out soon enough. Then I walked out, quietly. No yelling, no slamming doors, no final speech. Just left the room and went upstairs. They probably thought I was sulking or cooling off. They didn't know that in that silence I'd made my decision. That night, I didn't lose my temper. I lost my patience. And once a man like me runs out of that, there's no fixing what comes next. I didn't sleep that night. I just sat there in my office, the same room where I'd helped Lana build her volcano project and where Jake once fell asleep doing algebra. Everything in that house had my fingerprints on it, and suddenly all of it felt borrowed. When the sun came up, I didn't feel angry anymore. I felt done. There's a big difference. Anger fades. Being done? That's permanent. I made myself coffee, sat down at the desk, opened my laptop, and started cutting every tie that linked me to them, one by one. Jake's college fund? Gone. I'd been putting money in it since the day I married Laura. 9 years of saving, planning, working extra hours. I killed the $529 I owned and shut off every auto deposit. No warning, no speech, no second thoughts. Next was Lana's list of activities. Dance lessons, summer programs, all those optional things that somehow became expected. I opened my email, pulled up the receipts, and canceled every single one. Then came the credit cards, the ones Laura and the kids used freely. Lana had one linked to the App Store. Jake had his for emergencies, which apparently meant fast food and sneakers. I shut them all down. Even the small stuff. Streaming accounts, subscriptions, meal kits, family plans. All gone. Every convenience I had funded, every luxury they took for granted, wiped clean. I wasn't doing it out of spite. I was doing it because they made it clear I was no longer part of their story. I was just the background noise they'd gotten used to. Once the accounts were settled, I went to the cabinet and pulled out every document I had. Receipts, invoices, bills, tax forms. Every cent I'd spent since the day I stepped into that house. Doctor visits, school trips, braces, car repairs, groceries, all of it. It took hours, but I organized everything into a neat binder. On the cover, I wrote in bold marker, "Everything you owe." When I was done, the total stared back at me like a number carved into stone. $314,278. 9 years of being their safety net, condensed into black and white. Around noon, I started packing. Not my stuff. Theirs. Jake's shoes, his sports gear, his gaming console. Lana's toys, books, stuffed animals, clothes. I boxed up every single thing I had bought. The house looked emptier with every trip to the truck, but it also felt lighter. Laura must have heard the noise because she came downstairs halfway through. "What are you doing?" I didn't even look up. "Giving you exactly what you wanted." "Jason, this isn't funny." "Who's joking?" I taped up another box. "You said I took advantage of vulnerable kids." "So, I'm fixing that. I won't be part of their lives anymore. Don't worry. John can handle it." Her face went pale. "You can't just—" "Sure I can." I cut her off, calm as ever. "You made your choice when you said nothing. You let them call me a liar in my own home. You stayed quiet, Laura. That's worse than agreeing with them." She stood there frozen. Not a single apology. Not even a wait. By 2 o'clock, the truck was full. Every piece of evidence of my existence as their father, packed tight and ready to be delivered. Before I left, I took out my phone and typed a message to John. "Pick them up today. They only listen to you." No punctuation, no emojis, no explanation. Just facts. 10 minutes later, he replied, "Are you serious?" I didn't bother answering. I was already on the road. His apartment was smaller than I expected. Old paint, leaky balcony, the kind of place that smelled like cigarettes and takeout. All that flex, shiny car, designer jacket, big shot attitude, and he lives like a broke TikTok guru. I carried each box inside myself. He stood there, panicking, trying to keep up. "What is all this?" he said, voice cracking a little. I set the last box down, placed the binder on his counter, and said, "Everything I've paid for over 9 years. You're their real dad, right? Time to step up." He opened the folder, skimmed through the receipts, and his mouth dropped open. This can't be right. It's all there," I said. "You wanted to be the father. Congratulations. You just inherited the bill." He tried to stop me when I turned to leave. "Wait, Jason, you can't just dump them on me like this." I looked him dead in the eye. "They're yours now." He said something else, but I didn't hear it. I was already halfway down the hall. On the drive back, my phone buzzed. A text from him saying he was heading over to pick up Laura and the kids. I didn't drive home right away. I parked by a diner, ordered black coffee, and just sat there staring out the window. For the first time in years, I felt peace. Not happiness, not relief, just silence. When I finally got back, Laura was packing too. Guess she didn't waste any time. She looked at me once, then back at the boxes. "I'll move in with John for a while. He said he can help." "Perfect," I said. "Then you're right where you belong." She flinched like I'd slapped her, but she didn't argue. I'd already printed out the separation agreement, basically the first step toward divorce. She didn't even read it, just scribbled her name and walked out. No tears, no apologies, no regret. Just a woman walking away from everything I built, convinced her ex, the same guy who abandoned her, was suddenly her savior. Jake and Lana didn't even come inside. They waited in John's car, probably too embarrassed or too proud to face me. I watched them drive off, the taillights disappearing down the street. That was the last time I saw them as my family. I didn't yell, didn't cry, didn't chase after them. I just locked the door and looked around the house. Empty walls, quiet rooms, no laughter. But for once, it didn't feel lonely. It felt earned. They said I took advantage of them when they were vulnerable. But all I ever did was show up when no one else did. And if that's a crime, then fine. I'll take the sentence. As I stood there, everything hit me all at once. The years, the money, the effort, the love that went nowhere. And then it just evaporated. They wanted their real dad. Now they got him. After they left, the house felt like it could finally breathe again. No yelling, no slammed doors, no one asking me to transfer money or fix something that broke because they ignored my advice. Just me, my coffee maker, and the quiet hum of a place that was finally mine again. The first couple weeks I stayed busy, went back to hitting the gym before work, cooked for myself, even fixed up the backyard shed into a small workspace. For the first time in forever, my life wasn't about managing everyone else's problems. It was about mine, and it was quiet, simple, predictable. Then, about 2 months in, I started hearing things. Not from them directly, they didn't reach out, but through people who couldn't mind their own business. A friend from my old job texted me, "Hey, isn't Laura your ex? Saw her at the store the other day. She looked stressed. Said her guy's been out of work for a bit." I just replied, "Not my circus anymore." Still, it got me thinking. Turns out, John's comeback story wasn't holding up so well. The job opportunity he bragged about turned out to be nothing more than part-time work at a dealership. His spending habits didn't change, though. He still played the role of big man, dinners, gadgets, little splurges he couldn't afford, until the money dried up. And when the money goes, so does the fun. Word got around that Laura and John were arguing a lot. The same woman who told me I was too strict was now complaining that John was too unreliable. Life's got a sense of humor like that. Jake, from what I heard, quit talking about college completely. The kid who once dreamed of being an engineer was now flipping burgers to help his real dad with bills. That part stung a little, but not enough to make me regret what I did. Lana dropped out of her activities too. No dance classes, nothing. She stayed home a lot, apparently glued to her phone. Laura's sister told someone that she'd been acting different. But honestly, how could she not? The whole fantasy world they built around John was collapsing. I didn't gloat. I didn't celebrate. I just went about my days, quietly watching life play out exactly how I warned it would. Then, one night, it happened. The call. It was around 10:30, I'd just finished watching a game, and my phone buzzed. Laura's name popped up on the screen. I hadn't seen it in months. For a second, I thought maybe she dialed the wrong number. But curiosity got me, I answered. Her voice was trembling. Jason? I leaned back in my chair. Who is this? Please, she said. I know you don't owe me anything, but I need to talk. There was something in her tone. Desperation. Exhaustion. The same kind she used to have when she'd call me to fix something. Except this time, it wasn't about a leaky faucet. What's wrong? I asked, even though I already knew it had to do with John. He's gone, she said quietly. John left, just packed his stuff and disappeared. The kids don't know what to do. Jake's angry all the time. Lana barely speaks. I didn't say anything. Just waited. She kept talking. He was never planning to stay, Jason. You were right about everything. Her voice cracked. He only came back because he thought you'd adopted them. That made me sit up. What does that have to do with anything? He thought if he reconnected with them, he'd benefit from you. Maybe get some financial edge, use the kids as a bridge. I don't even know. I laughed, but it wasn't the funny kind. So, he didn't come back for them. He came back for me, or what he thought he could get from me. She started crying. When he found out they weren't legally yours, that everything was still in your name, he stopped trying. The next morning, he was gone. I let that sit for a moment. All those years of trying to be the man John refused to be, and he only returned because he thought I'd built something he could cash out of. Laura sniffled on the other end. I was wrong about you, Jason. I see that now. Yeah, I said quietly. Took you long enough. I don't expect forgiveness, she said. But Jake, he's lost. He said he misses you. He won't say it out loud, but I can tell. He realizes now what you were trying to do for him. I didn't respond. There was nothing to say. Can you at least talk to them? She asked. Please. They need some kind of stability. I took a deep breath. No, Laura. They need to live with the choices they made, just like you do. She started to cry harder. Jason, please. I cut her off. You know what I realized? I spent 9 years proving I was a good father to kids who didn't even want one. You spent 2 months proving you couldn't handle the man you replaced me with. I think we're even. And then I ended the call. No yelling, no slamming the phone down, just a quiet click. I sat there for a while afterward, staring at the ceiling. The silence that followed wasn't the empty kind. It was clean, like fresh air after a storm. They'd made their choice, and they got exactly what they asked for. John wanted what he thought was mine. Laura wanted the fantasy of a perfect family. The kids wanted the cool dad. And they all got it, for a little while, until reality reminded them what real actually means. Sometimes you don't need to get revenge. You just need to stop saving people from their own consequences. I poured myself a coffee, walked through my quiet house, and sat out on the porch. The night was calm. The world hadn't fallen apart, just their version of it. They wanted their real dad. They got him. And just like last time, he left. A year passed. Funny how fast time moves when you stop waiting for people to appreciate you. Somewhere along the way, I met Claire. We crossed paths at a hardware store, both staring at the same power drill like we were deciding if adulthood was worth the price tag. She laughed at one of my sarcastic comments. Most people don't. And that was that. No drama, no ghosts, no baggage. She didn't need saving, and I wasn't trying to save anyone. We clicked because neither of us needed the other to fill a hole. For once, I wasn't living in reaction to anyone else. I wasn't cleaning up after people who took my effort for granted. I wasn't explaining my worth. I was just existing, and it felt better than any apology could. Then, one day, I ran into them. It was at the grocery store, the same one I'd taken the kids to every Saturday years ago. I was picking up a few things, coffee, pasta, dog food for Claire's golden retriever, when I saw them at the far end of the aisle. Laura looked smaller, not physically, but in presence. Her face had lines that weren't there before, the kind that come from exhaustion, not age. Her hair was pulled back, messy, and she was arguing quietly with Lana, who stood beside her holding a basket that looked too heavy for her to bother with. Jake was a few steps behind, older now, but with eyes that had lost that spark he used to have. He spotted me first. For a second, our eyes met. No tension, no anger, just recognition. He didn't look away right away this time. Instead, he gave me this short nod. Not an apology, not a greeting, just a silent, I get it now. That was enough. Lana noticed him looking and turned her head. The moment she saw me, she froze. Then she quickly turned back to the shelf, pretending to compare cereal boxes. It stung for about half a second, then it didn't. Kids grow up. They learn the truth eventually, even if they can't say it out loud. On my way out, I passed Jake again. He didn't say a word, but he gave me that same look. one that said he finally understood what being a real man meant. I nodded back, then pushed my cart toward the exit. Outside, the air felt different. Not lighter, not heavier, just mine. I loaded the groceries into my car, sat there for a minute, and thought about everything that happened. 9 years of my life spent building something that was never really mine. And yet, I didn't regret it, because now I knew the difference between love and servitude, between loyalty and self-sacrifice. I used to think walking away made you heartless. Now I know it just means you finally stopped volunteering for your own misery. John showed them fake love and walked away. I showed them real love and did the same. The only difference is I never came back. And that, right there, is the piece I was looking for all along. YouTube just dropped this new hype feature. If you're hooked on this story, smash that hype button. It tells YouTube this video deserves to blow up, and it keeps even crazier stories coming your way.